Watching this man in his last moments of life, I began to feel guilty. True, he had committed murder, but wasn't there some other alternative? Couldn't some kind of effective rehabilitation be devised to help straighten out this young man after his first crime? Or was he simply beyond help, conditioned to the point where violence became his only means of survival? After the doctor attached the stethoscope to the man's chest, the guard sealed the airtight door so that none of the deadly fumes would escape. The cyanide capsules were then released into a vat of acid. Despite the elaborate precautions, a strange smell, like almond blossoms, permeated the witness room. The victim tried frantically to hold his breath, but it was just a matter of time. Within the next few seconds, unconsciousness would lead this man to his final verdict. In 1974, Larry DeSilva brutally raped and then murdered an 84-year-old woman. After a lengthy trial, he was sentenced to death by means of electrocution. Because of the general outcry against the inhumane method of hanging, the electric chair was the next step in the development of capital punishment. Its premiere was in New York during the year 1890. Larry DeSilva would soon join the list of criminals that have died in this fashion. It's time. DeSilva told me he had read extensively about the method that would take his life. When I asked him if he was afraid, he looked at me and smiled. But when the guards led him down death row toward the execution chamber, DeSilva seemed nervous and totally disoriented. He finally told me he was scared to die. When I asked him if he ever thought about this possibility as he murdered the defenseless woman, he replied, "All I wanted was the goddamn wallet, and the bitch gave me a hard time." DeSilva's history in crime was a lengthy one. At 34, 17 of those years were spent in and out of penal institutions. Beginning with petty thefts, DeSilva finally committed a crime which would cost him his life.
Good luck, Joe. Take your hair right out, Daddy.
The process is simple. The victim is placed in a chair where electrodes are attached to his leg and head. These two areas are sponged down beforehand with a brine solution to conduct electricity. Strapped to a seat that you will never leave alive is a situation that I still cannot justify. A man on death row is in a continuous battle with time and bureaucracy. When both fall into the proper alignment, the condemned knows that death will be the result. During the final preparations, those of us watching this man could feel the fear being transmitted from his body. Even though he had committed an inexcusable crime, I began to wonder if two wrongs really make a right. His eyes are taped to prevent them from popping out of their sockets. The next step is the flick of a switch would send a current of 2,000 volts through the victim's body. Then the current is brought down to 1,000 volts after a few seconds. By this point, the man is unconscious, and the whole process is repeated as many times as necessary until the prisoner is proclaimed dead by the physician on duty. Began to smell like burning flesh. After a brief examination, we all knew there was more to come. Trickle of blood marked the conclusion to this grotesque execution. How much longer will we be plagued by violence within society is a thought I've often pondered. If this is the only solution, humankind must stop and question the whole meaning of justice. The footage you are viewing was shot by a Canadian tourist while on vacation in the Middle East. I decided to include this sequence in my study for it portrayed a barbaric method of dealing with the criminal. To this day, I still don't know the crime this man committed. It would be curious to know whether his act was worthy of the judgment. The one redeeming factor of holding a public execution is perhaps it is a deterrent to crime. But is that any justification for execution? Most people have a desire to gain power and a better understanding of life. Religion helps center a person, supplying answers to the unexplainable. There is also another alternative for those seeking answers, the world of cults. Cults offer their followers four basic prizes: a sense of identity, discipline, knowledge, and power. To attain these levels, each cult has its own doctrine of laws that must be followed. On the outskirts of San Francisco, a cult existed that promised its members immortality. I had heard rumors about their ceremony. They believed that the power of everlasting life was found in the internal organs of the dead.